Okay, welcome to today's Advisor's Assistant webinar. And today we're going to start out with the basics of using Advisor's Assistant to track your insurance commissions. We're going to be taking a look at the initial setup and the main steps required to track commissions with Advisor's Assistant. And the Advisor's Assistant commission module is designed, first of all, to calculate the commissions that are due for each of your policies each month. And it's going to help reproduce the transmittal statements and mirror the reports that you receive from your companies each month. It will help you track the amount of commissions that you're receiving from the company to verify that you're receiving the correct amounts. And if you are paying any producers or managers, it'll calculate the commissions that are due to those producers or managers. And of course, it's going to print a lot of great looking reports. Now, there are 3 pieces of information that you need to have in Advisor's Assistant before you can start calculating commissions. You do need to have your contacts in Advisor's Assistant, your producers, your agents, and your clients. You also need to have your insurance policies in your database because the commission module works very closely with the policy information. We'll be seeing that as we set up the commissions. And you need to have the commission rate tables set up in Advisor's Assistant. So, what are the commission rate tables? Well, the rate tables are where you tell Advisor's Assistant what percentage commission the company is going to be paying the agency and what the agent and managers are going to be paid if you are paying agents and managers any commissions. You tell Advisor's Assistant which table is going to be used when you enter the policies into the database. When you add the rate tables to Advisor's Assistant, you're actually adding what we call a set of rate tables. One rate table can have different levels of rates. For example, you can have agency commission rates, producer commission rates, and manager commission rates. So one rate table can have an unlimited number of levels within the rate table. And there's a basic rule of thumb when setting up rate tables. If it pays a different rate, you need to set up a different rate table. And we'll come back to that a couple of times. So as you're determining which different levels of rate tables you're going to be setting up, you want to think about how your commissions are paid and distributed. First of all, the actual money that's being paid to the agency from the company, the check that's coming into the door from the company, that is set up in the agency level rate table. Then, if you are paying any commissions to the agents, those rates get set up in the producer rate tables. And if any commissions are being paid to managers or other payees, maybe a brokerage agency, you would set up that information in the manager or other rate tables. I've mentioned that there are producer and manager levels of rate tables. You'll only need to set up these rate tables if you're paying commissions to producers and managers or other people are being paid commissions. When you're setting up these other levels, you can calculate these commissions as a percentage of premium or a percentage of agency commission. And You can pay the producers and managers based on a custom rate table or what we call a default rate table. We've set up default rate tables in Advisor's Assistant to help save you time. Because as I mentioned earlier, the rule of thumb in setting up rate tables is if it pays a different rate, you have to set up a different rate table. But what if you pay a bunch of agents the same rate? When Advisor's Assistant is figuring out how much to pay a producer, first, it looks for what's called a custom producer table for that person. If it doesn't find a custom table, it looks for what's called a default table. So setting up default rate tables can save you a lot of time. For example, let's say that you have 100 agents in the agency and 98 of them are all going to get paid the same commission. But 2 high-producing agents are going to get paid a special commission. Rather than you having to enter 100 separate rate tables, with the default table, you only have to set up 3 tables. You're going to set up one default table that's going to work for the 98 agents that all get paid the same rate. And you're going to set up 2 custom tables that's going to work for each of the 2 high-producing agents. So just 3 tables, and that's where you're going to see saving all of that time. Okay, so here's a quick little quiz. And I know nobody wants a quiz, but here's a quick little quiz to help determine which structure would you use for setting up a default rate table. So here we've got 5 agents that are being paid on a low structure, 10 on a medium commission structure, and 2 on a high structure. So which one would we use for setting up the default rate table? Now, there really isn't a wrong answer here because you can set up your Advisor's Assistant any way that you wish. But if I were setting up Advisor's Assistant, I would use commission structure number 1 as the default rate table. And here's why. It does mean that if I use number 1, I would have a little bit more work because I would be setting up 12 custom tables because the default would only handle 5 agents. But it would save me more money in the long run. And here's my thinking behind using number 1. If I set up the medium commission structure as the default, which would save me time up front, remember, if you get a new agent, you have to set up a custom table for special circumstances because the default is what is used when it doesn't find a custom table. So what happens if we do number 2 as the default? What happens when a new agent comes on board and they're supposed to be paid the low structure and I forget to set up a custom table? If the default is number 2, the medium structure, the new agent is going to be overpaid because they're going to get the default commission. Now, is that new agent going to walk over to you and say, oh, excuse me, you paid me too much? Probably not. They're probably just going to take that check to the bank and cash it. But if you make the low structure the default table, even though that might be a little bit more time because you have more tables to set up, if the new agent comes on board and they don't get a custom table set up and they're supposed to be paid at a higher rate, and they accidentally get paid at a lower rate because it kicks into the default, they probably will come to you if they're not being paid enough. And I'd rather underpay the commission and correct it later than overpay the commission. So that's just the thinking behind the setup on the default being the low commission structure versus a higher structure. But once again, there is no right or wrong answer here. It's your database. You can set it up the way you'd like. Now, most of the setup for the commission module is in the upfront rate tables. Once those are set up, there are 3 basic steps to maintaining the commission module. You'll calculate the commissions each month, and Advisor's Assistant really does all of the work here. It just takes a few minutes. You'll post the commissions when the checks come in, and you'll print reports. So that's pretty much what you'll do each month in maintaining the commissions. I wanted to show you the basic formula Advisor's Assistant uses to calculate commissions, because when the commission does not calculate correctly, if you know the formula, you can usually figure out why it didn't calculate correctly. Now, in a straight percentage of premium calculation, Advisor's Assistant will look at the modal premium from the policy. It will look at the rate from the rate table, and it will calculate the commission due. That's all there is to it. So if the calculation is wrong, either the premium is wrong in the policy or the rate is wrong in the rate table. Those are the 2 places you would need to look. Advisor's Assistant does have different calculations. For group, you can also calculate dollars per participant. And in that case, the number of participants is a field in the policy, and the dollar per participant is in the rate table to calculate the commission due. And if you're calculating trailer commissions, Advisor's Assistant will use the net cash value from the policy and the trailer rate from the rate table to calculate the commission due. Now, when you get into the producer commissions, splits can be involved. But for the agency level, it's pretty straightforward. And if you understand how it's being calculated, you can usually figure out where the error is when it doesn't calculate correctly. When agency level commissions are calculated, they're always calculated as a percentage of premium. But I mentioned earlier that when you're calculating producer and manager commissions, you can tell Advisor's Assistant to calculate those levels as a percentage of premium or a percentage of agency commissions. So let's take a look at how that affects the calculation. A percentage of premium calculation is pretty straightforward, as we just saw. Advisor's Assistant takes the modal premium from the policy times the agent's rate from the rate table to calculate the agent's commission. Now, if you tell Advisor's Assistant the producer is paid as a percentage of agency commission, first, Advisor's Assistant has to calculate the agency commission. Then it goes to get the agent's rate from the rate table to calculate the agent's commission due. So you can see the difference there, and when we look at the rate tables, you'll see how easy it is to pay agents and managers by premium or agency commissions. Since Advisor's Assistant does the actual calculating of the commissions for you, the area where you'll spend time each month is in the posting process. Posting is when you reconcile the amount you receive from the company to what advisor's assistant calculated as due. If the amount you received is different, you'll be able to make adjustments, or you'll be able to create remainder commission transactions so you'll know the company still owes you money. And the last step in tracking commissions is printing reports. Advisor's Assistant has many reports to choose from. We'll take a look at a few, but as with all of Advisor's Assistant reports, you'll want to print the reports yourself and see which reports work best for your agency. So let me go ahead and switch over to Advisor's Assistant here. And now let's go ahead and get started tracking commissions. So the sample database that we're using already has our contacts and policies in it. Today's webinar, we're focusing on commissions. So we're going to go right to the rate tables. When you have the commission module installed, you're going to have an extra toolbar on the left-hand side for insurance commission tracking. So I'm going to click on the insurance commission toolbar and open that. And we have an icon right here on the left for rate tables. Once I click on the rate table icon, my Maintain Rate Table Sets window opens. And this now gives me a list of all of the rate tables that I already have set up in my Advisor's Assistant. So I don't have too many set up in here, but one thing that you can see is, first of all, for the name of your rate tables, you want to be as descriptive as possible with your rate table name, because you or another staff person needs to be able to select the correct rate table when you're adding or modifying policies, because it's the policies themselves that you attach the rate table to the policies. So when you're setting up the rate tables, you have a very long field for that rate table name. And you can use that entire field and be as descriptive as you want. And remember that rule of thumb for setting up rate tables? If the company pays a different rate, you have to set up a different rate table. So you'll see here that I have quite a few tables sometimes with the same company and just different rates. Like here I have different age ranges or different group member levels. So the name of the table includes the age range, the age bracket, or the levels of the members. So you can use the name of that table depending on exactly what that table is for. You'll also see that there are some rider rate tables set up. Because riders are paid with different rates, you would set up separate rate tables for the riders, and then as you're adding riders to the policies, you can point to the rate table within the rider for that rate table that contains the rates for that rider. So you may end up with 100 or more. Some people I've heard have hundreds of rate tables. It all depends on how many companies do you sell with, how many different types of products do you sell, how many agents, how large is your agency. There is no limit to the number of rate tables that you can have in Advisor's Assistant. Just remember that rule of thumb. If it pays a different rate, set up a different rate table. Now, to add a new rate table, we have an Add button down here on the bottom of the screen, but notice we also have a Copy button. So as you are setting up your rate tables, if only a very slight change needs to be made because there's a lot of similarities, don't worry about having to reinvent the wheel. You can use that copy button to copy the table and just tweak it a little bit. We're not going to add a whole new rate table. What we're going to do is I'm going to modify an existing table because I think it'll make more sense if you see something all set up and it will save a lot of time. So what I'm going to do is highlight a table that I already have added to the database, and I can either just double click on the table or I can highlight it and click on the modify button. And now I've opened up my rate table. So I have the name of my table at the top. Look at how nice and long that field is, so you can put all kinds of information in there. And then over here on the left, I have the different levels that have been set up. I have default levels and I have custom levels. We were talking about that previously. And then I have different types of tables here. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to start out talking about our agency level. So we'll start out with the first level here of the agency. And the rates themselves are in a grid, which is set up just like a spreadsheet. And Advisor's Assistant stores 20 years of rates. And then after the 20th year, it just uses whatever rate is in the 20th year space. So it will continue calculating into the renewal years after the 20th year. The first 3 columns are for a basic premium. You can track up to 2 override commissions. Now, for the agency commissions, it's always a percentage of premium, and when you enter override commissions, they need to be entered as a percentage of premium. So if your carrier is stating your override commission as a percentage of agency commission, there is a lot of help available in Advisor's Assistant. And part of the help for the commissions is a formula for converting the percentage of agency commission to a percentage of the premium. So you can get help for that. And that's within our help here because that's a common thing that you would need to do. So just go into the help and we have help with that. So override commissions need to be stated as a percentage of premium at the agency level. When you enter a rate, you don't have to fill in every single field. You can use some of the buttons on the screen. We have a fill down button. So if I were going to enter, let's say I've got this override, let's say I wanted to put an 8% in here, I can fill in an 8, and if I click on this fill down button, it copies it all the way down. So maybe it's 8 for the first 5 years, and then at year 6 it goes down to maybe 5. So I go down to year 6 and click on fill down, and it will copy it from 5 to 20. So you can use that fill down button, and that's on every screen to fill in the future years. So the first 3 columns are for your basic premium. Then we have some excess rates because of the universal life policy. If your policies don't have any overrides or they don't have any excess commissions, just ignore all of those columns. If all you have is a base commission, then all you need to fill in is the very first column. So you can just ignore any information on this screen that does not apply to the type of policy that you're entering commissions for, as with any data entry screen with Advisor's Assistant. So entering the rates themselves is just like entering data into a spreadsheet. Now down at the bottom of the screen, we have an option box for advancing commissions. If your company is advancing any of the first year commissions, such as they pay the first 9 months up front, you can enter how many months the company advances. Advisor's Assistant will automatically create a single transaction for that many months commission and then pick up the modal commissions with the next payment. So that automatically happens for you. Over on the right here, agency commissions are always paid direct by the company. So that option is grayed out on the agency rate table, but it is an active option that you can check or uncheck for producer and manager commissions. So we'll talk about that again at the producer and manager levels. So we've now finished the agency premium rates for this type of product. But since companies pay in different types of ways, there are other pages available for different types of commissions. The next page is for fixed dollar amounts. If the company will be paying a fixed dollar amount as the commission, the fixed amount can be entered on this page. Since fixed amounts can be different depending on the mode of payment, first, on the left, you would highlight the mode. For example, this type of policy has a monthly payment. So I would highlight the monthly mode, and then on the right, you can enter the amount that is paid for that specific year. So if the fixed amount is only paid in policy year 1, you would only enter an amount in the year 1 field. For this particular policy, a fixed amount is filled in for every year, which means for every year, a fixed commission amount of $2 is paid every month. If the policy has other modes of payment, such as some clients can pay quarterly, you would need to go to that mode and fill in the amount and enter that dollar amount for that quarterly payment. You need to make sure that you enter all of the modes of payments for that type of product. So remember, this is a commission amount. This is an amount that is going to be added into the commission. So that $2 amount is really low. That was just an example. So this is the agency commission. How much is the company going to be paying to the agency as a fixed amount each quarter or each month as a commission? And you can, once again, also tell Advisor's Assistant to advance the so many months of the first year of these fixed payments if your company is paying the commission that way. Now, the next screen is specifically for group insurance. If your carrier is paying $1 per member or participant commission, this is the page where you enter that information. Each of these screens is independent of the other. So, if your company pays a fixed amount and $1 per member commission, you can fill out both screens to calculate both types of commissions. But if you don't sell any groups that pay any dollars per member, you can completely ignore this page. And this page is pretty straightforward. You just enter how much the company pays per member for each year of the policy. And don't forget the fill down button for copying that dollar amount down to future years if it is the same. The last page is for tracking trailer commissions. As we saw in the presentation, trailer commissions are calculated on the net cash value of the policy. You just need to tell Advisor's Assistant when the trail commissions will start and how many basis points are being paid. When you enter the basis points, Advisor's Assistant shows you what percentage that equals for the calculation. Now, down at the bottom of the screen, there's an Options button. You may need to edit the rate table options. This is an area, this may not apply to you, but let's take a look at what's available. The first screen of options relates to posting your commissions. We want the posting process to be as quick and easy as possible. So, when setting up your rate tables, think about how the transmittal statement from the company that you're setting up this rate table for, how is your transmittal statement laid out? Regarding override commissions, if your company pays overrides, is the override combined with the base transaction, or does the company separate the override commission into its own check or a different section of the transmittal statement? You can tell Advisor's Assistant if you want the override commission to be included with the base commission or separated out into its own transaction. The same goes for the fixed amounts, participant commissions, and riders. Now the next page is for non-commissionable amounts. This can be used for any amount included in the client's premium that should not be included when calculating the commission. For example, the client may pay an extra fee for monthly payments. You won't get a commission on that fee, but you want the policy to show the true premium the client is paying. So in the policy, the modal premium will include the policy fee. Here, on the non-commissionable amount, you can enter how much that fee is, and Advisor's Assistant will automatically deduct that amount from the modal premium before it calculates the commission. First, you need to select the mode, similar to when we looked at the fixed amount page. If the fee is applicable when the client pays monthly, highlight the monthly mode and then enter the dollar amount of the fee in the field. If there's a fee when a client pays quarterly for this type of product, be sure to enter the amount for quarterly payments also, or any other modes that the client may be paying. And if the amount should only be deducted in the first year of commissions, check the box that's on the right. The last page of rate table options is for blackout dates. To explain blackout dates, let's take a look at teachers as an example. If you sell policies to teachers and the premiums are deducted from their paychecks, they may not have a paycheck during certain months of the year. And if no premium is paid, no commission is paid. So for this type of product, you can enter the date range for which there will not be a premium or commission. Advisor's Assistant would then automatically skip those months for the transaction. So you can just click on the Add button and enter a date range, maybe June through August or however your teachers are set up for that date range. And each year you will need to enter the new date range for that year, but don't worry, Advisor's Assistant will remind you that the blackout dates need to be updated. So once again, the option section is optional. You may not need to visit that area, but it is available, so you will want to check it out. So far, we've focused on the agency commissions, the money the company is paying to the agency. Now, let's take a look at the producer and manager rate tables. On the left, the different levels are listed. I can just click on a different level and I'll have access to the rates for that level. Each producer and manager level has a default table, and you can create custom tables. If you pay all of your producers the same rates, you only have to enter rates into the one default table that's provided by Advisor's Assistant. It's the main producer level listed. If any producers get a different rate, then you'll need to add custom producer tables. You can add as many custom tables as needed. So even though the word producer is only listed once, you can have 50 or 100 or as many as you need. You can have as many individual rate tables listed under the producer level. So looking at the default table, when I clicked on the producer default table, all of my rates over on the right changed. The layout and all of the other screens are still available, and they work exactly the same as the agency tables. So we're not going to go into all of that detail again because we just looked at that for the agency level. But there are a couple of differences. First, as I mentioned, the agency commissions are always entered as a percentage of premium. But when you're adding producer and manager commissions, they can either be a percentage of premium or a percentage of agency commission. And you specify that just by selecting it through the Apply Rates To field. When you're entering a producer and manager rate, Advisor's Assistant defaults to the commission being paid by the agency, so any commissions being paid would be deducted from the gross agency commissions. If the producer or manager is being paid their commissions directly from the carrier, you can still enter the rate if you wish to have those commissions calculated for reports. If you select agency commission, you also have down at the bottom, you can tell Advisor's Assistant, you can enter the commissions and check the box paid direct by the company. Advisor's Assistant will calculate the transaction, but it will not deduct that commission from the agency's commission unless you check the second box telling it to deduct the commissions. So if you wish, you can track the commissions that are being paid direct by the company, and you can tell it to deduct that money from the agency gross. And I'm going to turn all this back over to by premium. Now, the rate table that we're viewing has one default producer table and 3 custom producer tables. That means that Moneymaker, Johnson & Jones will be paid based on the rates in their custom table, but all other producers are going to be paid through the default table. If I need to add a new custom table, I just have to click on the Add Custom button, and it allows me to add a custom table. Since I have the producer level highlighted, it automatically selected a producer option, but I can change that to be a manager level. You need to specify whether you want to have this as a percentage of premium or a percentage of commission, and whether it is a group commission. If it is a group commission, you can specify if you're paying it as $1 per member or if it is a percentage of agency participant commission. So you do have some options here. You would only fill out one of these fields or the other. When you select a manager level, you also have the ability to pay the manager as a percent of a producer's commission. So that is another option when you are paying a manager. You can even select a specific producer which says only pay this manager a percentage when this specific producer gets paid a commission. So there are many options available when you are setting up the manager tables and producer tables. And then the last field is the producer itself. So when you are setting up a producer or manager custom table, you need to select the actual name of the producer or manager because you are setting up a custom table. So you just select their name from the list, and that sets up a new rate table, a custom table for that person. For the manager levels, there are 4 different fields in the policy record. So the levels are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4 because they can be used to note commissions for a manager, sub-GA, or any other person or entity that you would receive a commission. You need to make sure you enter rate tables for the field position you're using in the policy record. For example, you may decide the manager number 1 field will be used for the actual manager. So make sure you always have a manager number 1 rate table entered. Then you may have a brokerage agency that gets paid a commission. You could designate manager number 3 as for the brokerage agency. You need to make sure you then have rate tables for manager number 3. If you set up rate tables for manager number 2, but you're filling in the name in the policy under manager number 3, you're not going to get commissions calculated because the fields don't match up. Now, at the bottom of the producer and manager fields, Advisor's Assistant will also tell you if the commissions have been set up to be advanced at the agency level. So that will depend on how you set things up at the agency level. So we've now looked at the different levels and pages of the rate table. As you can see, each rate table set can have many actual rate tables. The important thing to remember is that if the company pays a different rate, you'll need to set up a new set of rate tables. That's that rule of thumb. As you're getting started, start out small. Pick one company and enter just one rate table or 2. Then select just 1 or 2 clients to set up. That way you can learn how the whole process works. If you entered the rate tables incorrectly, you only have to edit 1 or 2 tables. You won't have to redo 50 tables. Now, the second part of the formula for calculating commissions is located in the policy record. So let's take a look at a policy and see how you set up the policy to calculate commissions. Now, I'm going to cancel the changes to this rate table because I don't want to save any changes that I may have made. So I'm going to click cancel, but you would want to make sure that you always save your changes So click OK to save your changes, and I'm going to click cancel because I don't want to save any changes. Then I can exit out of my rate table set here. And one thing before we go to look at the policy, one thing I want to point out is in your master coverage plans, you can actually assign a rate table at the master coverage plan level. So I'm going to show you how you set up a policy, and each individual policy can point to a rate table. But you can also assign a rate table at the master coverage plan level, and that way it will save a lot of time once you set up your, sorry, I double-clicked instead of single-clicked. You can assign the rate table at the master level. There's a commission tab, and that allows you to point to a rate table. So if one rate table does apply to all policies that have this particular coverage, you can assign it. Like, here's my California Care rate table. And by doing this, anytime I add a new policy, this rate table will automatically be assigned to that policy. I still need to set the policy up to calculate commissions, because you will need to make sure that the policy is correctly set up, but at least the rate table will be assigned. Now, what this is going to say is, okay, I'm setting up this rate table for these policies. Do I want to fill in this rate table now for all of the policies that don't have any rate table? So you want to read what these say. It says, do you want to apply this change to any coverages that are already in your database that use this plan? And it says, okay, yes, make this the commission rate table set for all coverages that have this plan, even if they already have a commission rate table assigned, which means if you've already set up some policies and you've assigned a rate table, dump that, just assign this rate table. I don't know if you want to do that, because then you're overriding anything that's already been done. So that overwrites something that's already been done. Or, yes, make this the commission rate table set for all coverages that use this plan, but do not yet have a commission rate table assigned. That would be the one I'd be more likely to do, because it says, hey, only if it's blank, fill in this rate table. So I would say go ahead and fill it in if it's blank. This one, you're overriding, someone may have already made some changes. I would go with the middle option. So I'm going to say go ahead and fill it in if it's blank. And so I've just assigned that to any coverages that were already in existence. So that's a great feature that will fill in any rate tables. But all it's doing is filling in the rate table name. It is not setting up the policy to calculate commissions. That's what we're going to do next. So let's go set up a policy and make it all ready to calculate commissions. And we're going to do that under Larry Watson, because Larry has a policy. So I'm going to change over to Larry Watson's name, and I just did a Alt-Q on my keyboard to bring up my lookup name. I like to use Alt-Q, Q for query, because it's really fast to bring up that lookup name. And here I have a pending policy, and so I'm going to modify that. I highlight the policy and click on Modify. And here I have my policy open. And we are going to open up our Commission tab and click on that. Now, when you have the Commission module activated, this tab will show up. So it's only visible to people who actually have the Commission module. Nobody else sees that. The first thing that we need to do to set up this policy to calculate commissions is check the box to tell it, okay, hey, I want to calculate commissions for this policy. So I check the box, and that tells Advisor's Assistant, okay, let's calculate commissions for this policy. Now, the coverage plan, what we've done here on this page is this is everything that you need in one place to calculate commissions. We've put it all on one screen. These are the fields that advisor's assistant needs to be able to calculate commissions. And the coverage plan is a necessary field. Now, this is not the same coverage plan that we just added that rate table to. This is the HSA, not just California Care. So that's why this rate table is not filled in. But the coverage plan is, so we already have the coverage plan. That's a necessary field. Obviously, the HSA coverage plan does not have the rate table filled in at the master coverage plan level. So this rate table set is not filled in. So at this point, I can go to my rate tables. I do not have a specific rate table for California Care HSA. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and select my California Care rate table because maybe it's not a different, I don't need a different rate table. I would know that because I'm the person setting it up, and I'll just go ahead and select my California Care. Now, I could, right here, I could go to my California Care HSA because I see it's not filled in. I could modify that, and I could go to the Commission tab and fill in the rate table and go ahead and do my whole little routine there, what I just did before. So you can fill those in as you're adding the policies and setting those up too. The next field on the screen here is the effective date. You have to have an effective date to start calculating commissions. Advisor's assistant needs to know when the commission starts. It controls what year the policy is in, so advisor's assistant knows which rate in the table to use. So we'll go ahead and use today as the effective date. Now we're changing the effective date to 5/23. So the effective date controls the commission begin date. So it's just going to say, hey, if you make any changes, it'll go ahead and change it. The effective date affects the begin date. Now, the effective date and the begin date will match. You do not need to worry about the begin date unless you wish to stop the commissions from starting until a specific date. So the begin date would only need to be changed unless you want the commissions to start on a later date. The end date is blank, and you don't need to worry about the end date unless you wanted the commissions to end on a specific date. The end date will get filled in for you automatically if you do something like terminate the policy or something like that. So these are dates that are filled in automatically by the system, but you can manipulate them to begin the commissions later or to end the commissions at a specific time. We also need to have a payment mode. This has been filled in automatically by advisor's assistant because the payment mode was filled in earlier. Now, what I want to show you, though, is I'm going to blank out the payment mode, so there's no payment mode, and I'm going to click OK. And I did that because I want to show you that if you're missing any information and that little checkbox is checked, advisor's assistant is going to stop you and say, hey, you told the system that you want to calculate commissions, but you are missing important information and it cannot calculate commissions. And it even highlights the missing information and it will not let you exit out of the policy. So I just wanted to show you that there are some checks and balances in place, that it will not let you leave the policy until you fill in that missing information. Over to the right, we have the fields that fulfill the actual calculation from the policy. If your rate table is calculating as a percentage of premium, you need to have a modal premium entered, and you need to make sure that you have the correct years filled in for the modal premium, since you can show a different modal premium for different years. If your rate table is for groups, calculating dollars per member, you need to have a number entered in the participants field for the calculation. And if the policy is paid a trailer commission, you need to have a cash value entered. Now the bottom half of the screen is where you can list who is being paid a commission for this policy. First, the agency is listed. If you've purchased multiple modules to calculate for more than one agency, you can change the agency name. The producer section has 4 producer fields, so you can split each policy between up to 4 different producers. So let's say that this policy is being split between Chris Moneymaker and Sam Johnson. Chris Moneymaker's name is already entered because he's the primary producer for this policy. But we need to enter his case split. And you can have a different case split for the first year and renewal years. We'll say that Chris is getting 60% for the first year, and there is no split for the renewal years. So we'll leave the split percentage at 100. Next, we will select Sam's name from our producer list, and we'll fill in that Sam is going to get 40%, but Sam is not going to get anything in the renewal years. Now, these percentages are not the commission rate the producers are receiving. This is the case split, and the numbers do not need to equal 100. So this screen does not mean that Chris Moneymaker is getting a 60% commission. This means that Chris will receive 60% of his regular commission amount for the first year. It's the percentage of the case split. The next 4 fields are for listing other people that are getting paid a commission, such as a manager, sub-GA, or any other payee. The important thing to remember with these other payee fields is if you fill in a particular field, such as manager 1, you need to make sure that you set up a rate in the rate table for that field position. For example, you may decide you're going to use field 3 to indicate the brokerage agency being paid. In the rate table set, you need to make sure you've set up rates for the manager 3 payee or a commission cannot be calculated. Over to the right is the paid through date. This date is filled in automatically by Advisor's Assistant when you mark the commission as being paid through the posting process. So when you're looking at the policy data, you can see right on the screen when this commission was last posted as paid. Now, while the primary fields for calculating commissions are located on the Commission tab, there is one more screen that affects the commissions, the Premium Due page. You don't really need to visit this screen unless your commission is not calculating. It's filled in automatically based on the effective date and the premium mode. But it does show what day each month the commission will be calculated. And if you have any blackout dates set on the rate table, they'll also be listed here so you'll know why a commission may not have been calculated. So we've now visited the policy, and this policy is set up to calculate commissions. The next step in the process is to actually calculate. I'm going to click OK, and we've saved our policy information. Calculating is the easiest part of the process because I'm going to go back to my insurance commission toolbar. All I have to do is click on the calculate icon. It opens up my calculate screen. I just enter my date range and let's calculate. Let's go ahead and calculate for April 1st. All you have to do is enter your date range. I'll go ahead and calculate for 2 months, and you can calculate for any date range, even into the past or future. All of this other criteria allows you to limit the calculations by company, insured name, or any other fields. How much data you have in the system depends. That's going to control how long it takes to do the calculation. Over to the right are warning options. You don't want these warnings turned on all the time, but if you have a commission that isn't calculating, you can turn on the warnings and it will help you figure out why the commission isn't calculating. So I'm going to calculate just for a couple of months here, and the great thing about this calculating is Advisor's Assistant does all the work. You just get to watch it crank through the numbers. And that's how easy it is to calculate the commissions. So that's the easiest step in the whole process. Once Advisor's Assistant is finished calculating, the results screen opens. If you have any errors or warnings, you'll be able to view that list. In fact, if you have any warnings or errors, it actually opens up to one of those screens instead of the list of transactions. So you will be shown that screen, particularly if it's an error or a warning, it wants to point those out. So you have 3 screens available. Since I don't have any errors or warnings, it took me right to the list of transactions. You can, if you do have errors or warnings, you can export the list to Excel for working with that later or for printing. But what you can also do is when you're on the errors and warnings list, you can fix those calculation issues right from the calculation screen. And more details on those options are available right through the help. So when you have errors, it gives you details on what those errors are. And you can highlight the error and go right to fix the calculation problem, and it helps you out in fixing what the issue is. From the calculation screen, you can also double-click on any transaction to see all of the details about what was calculated. So I just double-clicked on a disability policy for James Madison. I've opened the distribution screen. This is the commission distribution screen, and it shows the details of everything that was calculated. It's available for every commission transaction. This distribution screen can be accessed from the calculation results screen where we just opened it. It's available through the view policy screens, and it's available through the posting commission screen. The top half of the distribution screen has details about the policy, the effective date, the policy year, the rate table name. The comments section will list out information like the fact that this had a non-commissionable amount. The bottom half of the screen lists out all of the levels of the transaction. This transaction starts with the agency commission. There's a base and an override. We can see exactly how the commission was calculated. The formula is listed, and there was a rider commission. There are 2 producers being paid for this policy. Chris is receiving a commission based on a percentage of agency commission, so the formula is being calculated as a percentage of the agency instead of premium. We can also see that Chris and Sam are splitting their commission. There is a manager being paid a commission, and at the bottom of the screen, we can see how much the agency is going to net for this transaction. The paid column and the paid date are both empty. This transaction has not been paid. This is a due transaction. You can post transactions through the distribution screen, but Advisor's Assistant has a whole posting process that makes posting quick and easy. So let's move on to the posting process. I'm going to cancel out of this transaction, which takes me back to the calculation results screen. From the calculation results screen, you can go directly to posting the transactions you just calculated by clicking the post button. But I want to show you how you can post from the menu. So I'm going to exit and go back to the view screens. Before I do that, I do want to point out that you can export all of these transactions over to Excel. So we have Excel exports throughout Advisor's Assistant. So if you like to see lists of transactions in Excel, watch for those Excel exports. I'm going to exit out of this calculation results screen, and over on the left in my toolbar, I have a post option. When you receive a check from the company, you'll need to post the commissions in Advisor's Assistant to tell the database what commissions you've received and what commissions are still outstanding. So just click on the post icon to open the posting criteria. The posting criteria is designed to let you narrow down the transactions you'll see on the posting screen. One main field you'll want to use is the date range. The from date is left blank intentionally. It's rare that carriers are current with their commission payments, so you'll always want to see unpaid transactions from previous months. You can leave the from date blank to see all unpaid transactions. Since I have lots of sample data, I'll just post for the previous month. So I'm just going to look at April's transactions that we had just taken a look at. The next main field that you'll want to select is the company field. Since you're working with a check from one company, you'll only want to see the transactions from that one company on the screen. Otherwise, you'll be wading through all kinds of companies. Now, because I have sample data, I'm going to go ahead and leave a lot of companies on the screen. There are other fields that you can use to narrow down the list of transactions, and you'll want to go through them each posting session. For example, if you have a check in your hand that only has override transactions, you can tell Advisor's Assistant to only show you the overrides in this posting session. Now I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and it is warning me that I haven't entered a company because the company field is very important, and I'm going to just go ahead and tell it OK. Yes, I want to skip the company. And the next option that I have here is the statement date. This becomes the posted date of the transaction, and we recommend that you use the transmittal statement date so you can reference back to which check the commission was paid. But if you have another date system for tracking your commissions, you can enter whichever date you'd like to track as the posted date. And so I'll go ahead and enter a date here. So I didn't have a lot. In fact, let me see here. Let's see, I don't have a lot showing up here, and I don't have a lot due for the agency. So I am actually going to exit and let me put another posted date range. I'm going to widen my posted date range here and see if I get more. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Let me go ahead and just, I'm working with sample data, so sometimes I need to be a little broader. Here we go. That looks more like it. That's what you would be seeing. When you work with sample data, sometimes you need to be a little more lenient in what you enter. So this is what you'll see more on your posting sessions. Now we have our posting screen open. The top section of the posting screen is going to list details about the posting session. You've got the total that you've already marked as paid. You've got details about the transaction that you're sitting on, the due date range that you entered. The posting screen is laid out in a grid with information about the transactions that have been selected to post. You can click on any of the columns to sort the information on the screen, and you want to try to match the order of your company's transmittal statement. So hopefully you can just go down the list to post those transactions. For each transaction, you've got the insured name, the policy number, the plan name, and how much advisor's assistant has calculated as due for the agency. Since the check is coming from the company to the agency, you post the agency commissions that have been received, and then advisor's assistant posts the other levels like the producers. Once you put your transactions in your preferred order, you should just be able to go down the list and compare the amount advisor's assistant calculated to the amount the company paid. Then there is one of two things you can do. You can either tell advisor's assistant the amount is correct and to pay the amount in full, or the amount is different and you need to make adjustments. So here we have an Andrew Jackson amount. We have $19.90 that is showing as an amount that's due. We look at our transmittal statement. Let's say that the company paid us $19.90. There's two ways that we can mark this as being paid in full. If we look down on the bottom of the screen, we have a blue button that says Pay in Full or press the Home key. So we can either click on this blue button to say Pay in Full, or we can press the Home key on our keyboard, and that will post the commission as being paid in full with that posted date that we have selected. So if you are showing on your transmittal statement that these amounts are the same, you can just go down the list and press that Home key on your keyboard, and advisor's assistant just posts that amount as paid in full, and you can just post those commissions and go down that list. And that's how easy it is to post those commissions. Advisor's assistant behind the scenes is also posting all of those producers and managers. And if you have any questions about the amount that was calculated, you can double click on any of those transactions and it opens the distribution screen so you can see all of the details about how the transaction was calculated. And you can even post from this distribution screen if you wish. So we looked at how do you post when the amount is the same. Back on the posting screen, what if the amount the company paid is different than the amount advisor's assistant calculated? Well, I stopped on this disability policy and noticed that we also have a red button on the screen. So if you compare the amount that was calculated and it's different, you can click on the red button or press the End key, and that pops up a different screen. So if the amount is different, type in the amount that the company actually paid. Maybe they only paid a totally different amount. When you enter that amount, a separate screen opens. Since there are different reasons advisor's assistant did not calculate the correct amount, you'll be able to select how you wish Advisor's Assistant to allow for the difference. I entered a lower amount. So these are the options for having a lower amount. You'll have very similar options if you enter an amount that's larger than the amount Advisor's Assistant calculated. So you'll need to read the screen depending on the amount that you enter. First, you'll need to select how the amount is to be applied. And I do not have any paid direct money here. There's no amount that's being paid direct to producers or managers. So since no direct payments are involved, I'm going to select the gross due from company. That's the most common option when there's no direct payments being involved. Since I entered a lower amount, for my example here, I'm going to say that the carrier still owes a remaining commission. So in my example, I'm going to select option 1. What's going to happen here is Advisor's Assistant is going to post the amount that I was paid, and it's going to proportionally post all of the other producer and manager levels. It's going to create a remainder commission that's going to stay in my Advisor's Assistant until I mark that remainder transaction as being paid. So when you want it to create a remainder, that's what option 1 is going to do. The next 2 options would be used quite often for group commissions. Since members can move in and out of groups throughout the month, Advisor's Assistant would not be able to calculate an exact commission each month. But by setting up the policy to calculate commissions, at least you know a commission is due, and you'll be notified if the commission is left unpaid. When you are paid the commission and you know it's correct because the premium or number of members changed, you can use option 2 to have Advisor's Assistant automatically adjust the base amount, such as the modal premium, and post all other levels as being paid. When you choose this option, you'll also have the opportunity to change the modal premium in the policy. So if this group doesn't change a lot next month, it would probably calculate a correct commission. And then option 3 is similar, except the rate is adjusted for you and all other levels are posted as paid. The last option opens the distribution screen, and it just allows you to manually post the transaction and make any changes you'd like. So I'm going to select option 1, and it's going to create a remainder transaction. Advisor's Assistant opens the distribution screen so you can review all of the changes that were made. It shows and highlights all of the adjustments that were made, and it lists the remainder transactions. You see the extra line item for the remainder. If you accept the posting, click OK, and you're back on the posting screen, and it highlights that transaction in a darker blue color because it's indicating that yes, we posted this transaction, but there is a remainder still with that commission transaction. And you'll also notice that there's a distribution button on the screen because you can open that distribution screen at any time, but I tend to just double click on the transactions. There is also an Export to Excel button on the screen. You can send this list that you see on the screen over to Excel at any time to run your own reports. And as you are posting, the total amount that you have posted will be listed at the top. You can track this number because that should total the amount of your check once you're done with the posting session. So once you're finished posting, check that amount, and as long as it matches your check, that allows you to sort of balance out that you've posted everything that came in with your check. And then once you are finished, you can exit out of the posting, and that is the posting process. So that's how you balance. Once you get those checks, look at your transmittal statements and post those commissions, and that's how you check and make sure that you've been paid everything that the company has paid and everything calculated out correctly. Now, before we look at reports, I want to show you how the commissions get listed for each policy. So I'm going to pop back over to James Madison, and let's go ahead and look at that disability policy for Jim. So I'm going to double click on his disability policy. When you have the commission module activated, you also have an extra view screen for the policies. You'll have a commission tab. You control who has access to the commission tab. So only users that you grant access to the commission module will see this screen. When you click on that screen, you'll see all of the individual commission transactions that have been calculated for this policy. You'll see override transactions, rider transactions, everything. And it will indicate whether or not that commission transaction has been paid. From this screen, you can double click on any individual transaction to see the details of that transaction. This is that transaction that we just posted, but it's that transaction that we posted with a remainder. So we adjusted it. Through the View Policy screens, you can also add manual transactions. Because Advisor's Assistant is set up to automatically calculate your commissions for you, there shouldn't be too many instances that you'd need to add a manual transaction, but the ability is there. From this View Policy with Commissions screen, just click on the Add Action button, and you'll have the choice of adding a standard transaction, or it's through this manual process that you would add a chargeback. And more details about adding the manual transactions or chargebacks is available through the help, or tech support can help you with that. Once again, you really shouldn't need to add manual transactions because Advisor's Assistant is really designed to automatically calculate your transactions for you. And then one other feature that's available through Advisor's Assistant is the ability to track producer and manager adjustments. And we don't really have time to go into detail about the adjustments, but I wanted to point them out in case they apply to your commissions. In the commission toolbar is our adjustment icon. So when you open the adjustment screen, you can click on the Add button to add any adjustments that you may need. And adjustments are basically a commission amount that is being added or deducted from a producer or manager's commission. You may add an extra bonus for a producer, or you may deduct agency costs from a producer's commissions. It's through the adjustments section that you can show these adjustments. So you can use this section for any kinds of adjustments that you'd like, and you can also export these adjustments over to Excel. So you can use this for any types of adjustments. All right. The last step in the commission process is printing reports. When you're ready to print reports, just click on the Reports icon from the toolbar, and as with all of our other reports, the Report Criteria screen opens. And the commission reports work just like others, where you want to tell Advisor's Assistant what type of data you want to pull from the system for the reports. There are 3 main types of commission reports. So the first thing you need to do is select what type of commission report you want. The distribution reports will list the transactions to show what has been paid and what is still due, so you can notify the company. The transmittal statements are designed to be given to your producers and managers with the check from the agency, so they know what commissions have been paid. And the agency net reports do just that. They report on how much commission has been distributed to the producers and manager and how much the agency nets from each policy. Now, these reports have a lot of detail on them. So I'm going to show you a couple of reports. I know we're sort of right at the time mark, but I'll open up a distribution report and a transmittal report. But I know because of the size of the screen on your webinars, you're not really going to be able to see much on the reports, but I want to show you how to select the reports. But the best thing for you to do is to run these reports in your office, because you're really not going to be able to see these reports on your screen because of the degree of detail on these reports. So let's take a look at a distribution report to start. You'll want to use these fields to select out the data. The distribution reports are going to show you lists of transactions. So you could use a due date range. Maybe I want to give me all commissions that are due for the month of May. And it's really through the status. Maybe you want to see only due commissions. Maybe you want to see only paid commissions. That's where you control what is on your distribution report. I'm going to go ahead and say all transactions, and we're going to see a pretty full report here. So I'll say search, but look at all of the different fields that you have. Just show me one company. Just show me reports for one producer or one insured. You have a lot of control over what you select for these distribution reports. And I will go ahead and let's take a look. There are a lot of pre-formatted reports. You can see reports listed in different ways, by company, by payee, by producer, by level. So once again, select what type of report you wish to print and print them all out and see which ones you like and put them on your favorites list. And I'll zoom in on this report because, oh, I double-clicked twice on the report, so another report's going to pop up here in a second. Sorry about that. Let me exit out of one. Sometimes that mouse goes a little crazy on the double-click. But you can see that it's hard for you to see these reports in a webinar because there's just so much detail on them. But what we have is it will list it out through the different levels. Let me try another page here with less data. We've got a producer level, manager level. You've got subtotals. It lists out each policy. It totals things at the bottom of each section, and it will even group it by company. So there is a lot of detail on these reports. Let's try page 2 here. This is pretty nice. And it's really best for you to print these reports out to see which reports work best for your agency based on the information that you're looking to get from the reports. Whenever you see these reports, because I told it all due and paid, if there's a posted date, that's a paid commission. If there's no posted date, that's a due commission. So you can tell it to only give you due commissions or only give you paid commissions depending on what's your purpose for the report. Now, I also want to show you the transmittal reports. Let me clear this out. When you select a different type of report, you're going to have different options on the screen. And on the transmittal reports, you can select a statement date because this is now your transmittal statement. The transmittal statements are designed to be given with the check that you're paying to your agents and managers. So the important thing with the transmittal statements is the posted date range. You have to be careful on the posted date range that you do not overlap your posted date ranges or you may double pay your agents. And so be careful on your selections. And I'm going to go ahead and just use the posted date range of May since that's what we were posting here. There are quite a few transmittal statements because we've just edited them as people have requested different types of statements. What you should do is print them out and select the one statement that you like. And we do get people who request different statements, so you can send in the changes that you would like. And I'll open up one here just to give you an idea of what the statements look like. We have the statement set up so that the agent or manager's name shows up, so you can fold it and put it in a window envelope, and you don't even need to print labels or envelopes. And let me zoom in a little bit here. So it will print out just like your transmittal statements. It's designed to let the agent know what are they being paid for. And so they can look at the check and know what policies they've just been paid for. And it will print out a new statement for each different producer or manager. If they've been paid some commissions for manager commissions and some for agent, it'll list them out. And there are also messages that you can print on the bottom of these reports to get messages out to your agents and managers. So this concludes today's webinar. While there is a bit of setup for the commission module, remember to start out small. Just set up a couple of rate tables and go through the whole process to gain an understanding of how it works. And don't forget, support can help with the setup of your commission structures, which of course are different from the samples we've used. I hope you found the webinar helpful as you use Advisors Assistant's insurance commission tracking.